Miss Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Welcome guys, Miss Liz is back, and that's right, I was off for 14 days and I'm back now, and we have the incredible Roberta Samuels in the house, and we're going to talk about her book called Lost, but we're also going to talk about her tea, and her tea is Travel, Tale-Telling, and Art Appreciation. That is the tea we are serving tonight. We are having a couple of little glitches, so Miss Liz is aware of those glitches, so stay tuned. If we pop in and out, you see some circles, just let Miss Liz know what you guys are seeing, but we're going to get through all those good technical issues because this is a live show. Before we get started, we're going to get to everybody over to the platforms, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those good platforms. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe, and get those tea times out there because they do make a difference for the guest and for the listening audience that resonates with the stories. Also, jump over to the podcast apps, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those good platforms. But jump over to babyboomers.org. Miss Liz has been partnered with them for about 4 years. And if you're looking to be featured on different podcasts, they have over 50 shows over there that are always looking to have guests on their shows as well. So check that out, babyboomers.org. Now let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro with Roberta. And then we're going to stir some tea and have some fun with you guys all this afternoon. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. Hi, Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where every conversation opens the door to another world, another perspective, and another story waiting to be uncovered. Today we are delighted to welcome Roberta Samuels, award-winning, critical acclaimed author whose novels blend mystery, history, art, culture, travel, and the irresistible pull of discovery. Roberta is the author of 4 books, including an intriguing series of novels. Lost, an Ancient Artifact Adrift in Sarasota Bay, I hope I'm saying it right, Missing, a modern art masterpiece in a French medieval village, Vanished, a valuable African statue stolen in southwest France, and French Lessons, one woman's tale of sex, wine, and house renovations in La Belle, France. Her stories invite readers into worlds where objects carry history, place hold secrets, and seemingly ordinary discoveries can open the door to extraordinary mysteries. From Sarasota Bay to medieval villages in France, Roberta's writing continues her fascination with art, culture, travel, and human relationships to create adventure filled with intrigue and discovery. Today we'll explore the inspiration behind lost, missing, and vanished, creating mysteries around art, artifacts, and history, the influence of France on her storytelling, turning real places into unforgettable fictional settings, writing characters readers want to follow from one adventure to the next. The more personal and humorous journey behind French lessons. Roberta reminds us that sometimes the most fascinating stories begin with a simple question: what happened here? Then curiosity takes over. So grab your favorite cup and join us for a conversation filled with mystery, travel, art, history, adventure, and real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness. And Roberta, let's welcome Roberta in and let's spill some tea and have some fun.
Well, hi, I love that.
Well, welcome, Roberta. It is a pleasure to have you here on Tea Time. So, Roberta, tell us a little bit about who you were as a little girl and who you are now.
Oh, as a little girl, I was a very curious little girl. I loved I loved pretty clothes. I loved my dog. I adopted a cat. I was also kind of cautious in a way. When I learned to ride my two-wheeler, there was a little hump in the sidewalk near my house, and I spent a long time worrying about riding my bike up and down that little stoop. But from that, at the same time, I'm a very adventurous person who loves to go places and just invite me, and I'll be there for an adventure.
And who are you today, Roberta?
Well, today I'm a much more perhaps sober-sided adult, person. Uh, but luckily, having arrived at the stage of life where I'm a grandmother and I'm retired and I'm again kind of free to be back to that freedom-loving little girl and free to follow my fancies.
So, Roberta, tell me, how old were you when you got into writing?
Oh, this is a very recent development. Actually, I'm kind of an arty person. I guess I always was, although I was also very good in academics in school. But I was a painter for a long time. I've worn a lot of different uh, caps over the years in my career. I was a teacher. I was a small group tour guide. I was believe it or not, a college uh, a college advisor, and I during COVID, which isn't that long ago, I was unable to continue doing my painting. I did a lot of painting at the Art Students League on 57th Street in New York, most recently, and I've owned art galleries where I've displayed my own paintings and other people's work. But anyway, COVID meant that we were all supposed to stay at home and confine ourselves. And I felt that I needed another artistic outlet. So I saw a class listed about writing a chapter from one's life. And having arrived at a stage of life where I have a lot of experiences to look back upon, I thought I might like to try my hand at that. And one thing led to another. One chapter in my life led to another. I decided I didn't start at the very beginning of that little girl riding the bicycle over the little hump. Um, a very significant part of my life was when I got divorced after 37 years of marriage at age 55. And I decided to follow my adventurous streak and go to live in France for a while. I had been a French teacher, French and Spanish teacher, and I had traveled extensively in France doing tour guiding. And I thought I'll just have myself an adventure. So that's where I decided to take up my story. My first chapter is when I bought an 18th century farmhouse in a very small village in France, a hamlet with more cows than people.
So, Roberta, when you wrote your first book, what did you think of? How long did it take you to write the book, and how did you build that storyline up?
Well, the book took about a year to write. Um, I found that it was challenging setting up the story because, frankly, there was so much to say. And I think that for a beginning writer, the problem is either the ideas crowd in so fast you really wonder how to get them all down on paper and when, or else for some people there's just no ideas. There's kind of a very basic concept, but after that you really have to embroider. You don't know where to go. So for me, the challenge was how to set up, how to explain first of all, why it was that I bought this house. How did I have the background or the nerve? How what were the practicalities? So that got me into explaining some of my prior life, where I had been fortunate enough to be a an exchange student at the Sorbonne at the University of Paris in as a part of my college career, and where that brought me up to date as being a tour guide with I went into business with a neighbor of mine who finally asked me. Her specialty was really tours to Chile and Eastern Europe. She asked me to make up a tour to France, and so then I was leading tours to France, and those experiences kind of combined to help me to explain what I was doing in France there at the house. Why was I renovating it? Well, I was trying to renovate myself also to a certain extent, and see if I couldn't question some of my formerly very deeply held beliefs and see if I might not want to change some of those and experience some personal growth there in this challenging environment where I didn't know anybody or anything. And that became kind of the theme for the book, is so not just my experience, but how that experience might be more universal to everybody's a kind of a coming of age story, and also a romance with a happy ever after ending.
Well, when you start a new life, right, after being married for 37 years, there is an adventure, right? It's to learn all about yourself again.
That's right. That's right. I found that some of the things that I used to blame on my ex partner turned out maybe that it wasn't that he was convenient to have for blame, but perhaps I had to shoulder a lot of that responsibility. That was
Abs-
interesting.
Absolutely. Well, we got some questions coming into the studio, so I'd like to get the first one out to you. The first one's in from Lucy, and it says, "What first sparked your lifelong fascination with art and French culture?"
You know, I was bitten by that bug very early. When I was growing up, I guess France and Paris was the bastion of high fashion and famous artists like Picasso, Rock, the development of modern art, sophistication. Uh, so I was bitten by that bug, and I was good at language. And so my parents enabled me to study French, and I just took to it like a duck to water, although it's not in my family background or anything. And somehow France, La Belle France, seemed to summarize a lot of my interest in language, travel, art, pretty objects. It combined a lot of those things, at least in my mind.
Well, the next question comes in from Discovery Connecticut. How did living in France change the way you see art and storytelling?
Well, it certainly changed the way that I see art. The French can be kind of a thorny bunch, but then the opposite side is that they are very open-minded in another way as art and beauty is concerned. They are willing to consider perhaps their more broad-minded than, or they used to be, than the America where I grew up. And as far as how it changed my way of storytelling, in France, people are really very willing to talk without stepping on people's toes or political opinions, or there's more of a willingness to listen. So I think that helped me to believe that, people would listen to my stories, that there'd be an audience out there for taking a little time. There are no murders. There's no. It's not very bloody. But really, often there's something very fascinating if you'll just listen for a while.
Yeah. Well, I know some of the covers of your books are your own artwork. So could you share a little bit about that?
Well, yes. So, what to put on the cover? That's a huge topic. And after going through a lot of different ideas, if I may, okay, this is going to be backwards, but this is the first book, French Lessons, and this is one of my paintings. Um, in the book, my character, who is loosely based on me, uh, did a lot of painting en plein air, out of doors. And this is a painting of a cafe where that's significant in the book because the tour guide, Barbara Waldheim, ends up in this little village, which is Saint-Antonin-Nobleval, with her group of tourists. And the owner of the hotel where she has booked a couple of nights says he has no room at the inn for her tourists. And so she asks in the meantime, when she's having this kerfuffle, the tourists are sitting in this cafe, which is a very beautiful town in the southwest of France, right in front of the oldest civic building in France, founded in 1139 or something. So they're having a drink at this beautiful cafe. So I thought, and it would be appropriate, perhaps, since the books are a lot about Barbara and the fact that she does paint, to put some of the paintings, use them as the background for the covers. Now, this one that Miss Liz showed, Lost, by the time I got done with the cover, you can really I don't know if this is for good or ill. It's very hard to see my painting back there. But to me, this is significant, this cover, because this painting actually is either Sarasota Bay, you see the city of Sarasota on Sarasota Bay down there in Florida, or perhaps a very glamorized bottom of Manhattan there, as you see the base of Manhattan from the Staten Island Ferry. But I decided, in fact, to go with things that had meaning to me. I also thought this particular cover was kind of mysterious, and this ancient artifact that found in the bay is very mysterious to the people in the book. Its origin is completely unknown, and why it would be found in Sarasota Bay when it seems to be fairly Middle Eastern is a very big question in the book.
I kind of like looking at art and seeing the different flows of colors coming together.
Yes, that's so exciting. It's like an alchemy that happens. That's right.
I like the softness of it because it kind of gets you lost in the cover. And then the cover is called Lost. So you kind of got like a double sword there.
Oh, I love that idea. That's what I was kind of going for. The other covers, the cover of Missing and the cover of Missing, is about a painting, a Sonia Delaunay painting. She was a famous painter, the first woman to have a solo show at the Louvre Museum in Paris. She was a very modern artist, and one of her artworks was actually made for a little town where Barbara and Sam, my hero and heroine, have a little house in France. But the artwork is missing, and on Missing, I have another painting along the lines of, on the cover, along the lines of, it's a painting of a medieval town, which you can see somewhat in the background. It has a big cliff in the background. No one probably sees that cliff. It's called Le Roc d'Anglars, after the English, who were a lot in France during the 100 Years' War. In fact, there's a funny thing about that. In France, this is just a joke, but the French say, "Oh, the English, they're back." They thought maybe they got rid of them after the 100 Years' War, and the English say, "You know, France is such a lovely place. If only there were no French people here." So they kind of tease one another, still enemies after, or competitors after all that time long ago. And then the cover, I had a lot of question about what to put on the cover of the book Vanished, which concerns an African statuette that's called an Akisi Congo. And that wooden sculpture is very fierce looking with a raised fist, because it's a protector, adjudicator sculpture, and it has nails all in it. And I thought that was fascinating. But I didn't put that on the cover. The cover of that one is another sort of evocative, mysterious landscape from around the southwest of France. I think basically in the background there are probably haystacks, because there's a lot of hay in the field.
I really like when it's a painting, right? Because everyone sees a different perspective of a painting. You know, we'll see something that you might have not seen when you painted it, and then when we share it, then you're like, oh yeah, I see it now. I see where I was going with that.
That is so very true. And even sometimes people will point out, which I don't like very much, they'll say, they'll concentrate on some little form in one of my paintings and say, that looks like someone's head, or something like that.
Well, yes, everyone has a different perspective, right? When you look at colors and shapes and blends. But the cover of Lost, I really like the colors of the pink and the blues, because you get lost. It's like a calm feeling peace. But in that book, there's also a lot of deep story into it, correct?
Well, I think that's my most complicated book. One of the challenges of making these books is, first of all, to keep writing, because writing is a very solitary experience, and you don't necessarily get that much feedback as you're going along. So you need to believe in yourself. I mean, you're so wrapped up in it, but occasionally you emerge and you think, have I been wasting my time here? And then to construct a mystery, the first book, French Lessons, kind of flowed as I was explaining, because there was a kind of a story with a point of personal development and a happy ending. But in order to keep writing, the same characters confront this intrigue that has to do with an art object, and then I get to talk about the art object and some of the controversies in the art world, or some of the controversies, like, say, Sonia Delaunay. Is her artwork missing partly because she was a woman? Did they not want it in the village? The Nkisi Congo figurine got into, it's amazing where some of these books took me, to Africa, Senegal, Al-Qaeda, this business that just happened at the border of in Morocco, in Ceuta. My character is trying to get into Europe with this statuette through Melilla, which is another one of these little Spanish provinces on the coast of Africa. Anyway, now I'm beginning to get lost myself about where I was. But Lost is a book about, first of all, the Ringling Museum, which is a real treasure, cultural treasure in Sarasota. And first, my characters get fascinated with a portrait by Titian of a woman who was probably, that's the question. How do you do attribution? Was this really a Titian? Is the portrait really of a Eurasian concubine, the favorite of the harem of Emperor Suleiman the Magnificent? And from there, in Sarasota at the Ringling, um, which is now well supported by the state of Florida, at one time the roof was leaking and the endowment was running out, and the question was how to keep this museum going, and were the people in charge of it doing their due diligence to make sure that the objects were well cared for and well documented. So possibly this museum which was originally built to be a Venetian palazzo because the Ringlings were fabulously wealthy from the circus, and they were fascinated with Venice. So how could some object, perhaps from the Ringling, fall into Sarasota Bay and be picked up, be bumped into by some swimmers? And what is this object? So I feel very proud of that mystery, because Sam and Barbara eventually find that perhaps the object has something to do with the connection between Middle Eastern culture and Western civilization. And I like very much the idea. They get involved with a movie producer. There's also a movie festival in Sarasota, a movie producer who's making a movie about this concubine, Haram, who was the favorite of Suleiman. And at the film festival, this movie doesn't win perhaps the festival, but Sam and Barbara win a trip to the Middle East. And as things eventuate, I, as the author, get to make the point that perhaps there are more connections between the Arabian Peninsula, which we sometimes think of as being kind of completely oppositional to our Western ways, and maybe there are some confluences of influence that would mean that we could cooperate more. So my books ended up getting kind of political, to tell you the truth, which was completely unexpected.
Well, Roberta, what I like about your books is you're reading education as well, right? The education behind the history of the arts when people are reading it, because if they don't know about the French arts, when they're picking up a book, they're actually learning a little bit about it through the storytelling.
Well, once a teacher, always a teacher. Yes, well, for me, that's what's so fascinating about art and about art objects, to learn. I mean, yes, it can be the object can be beautiful or interesting to look at, but to learn the backstory is frankly always very interesting. Who made it? Why? What is it about? Who owned it? Why? Who? For instance, then there's again, it gets a little bit political. If this object is now in a museum collection, should it be there? Who the people who made this object, or perhaps the group to whom it's very culturally significant, but maybe they weren't able to take care of this object. Maybe the object would have no longer be in existence if it hadn't been collected and put behind glass in a museum. And now that it has been put there, well, it's really part of the cultural patrimony of that country, right? Probably a European country, but this exists also in the United States, certainly. So these are thorny questions.
Well, I'm like that with teacups, right? When I was a little girl, who made it? Who painted it? Who drank from it? Was it a grandma that drank from it? Was it an aunt? Was it a cousin? And what stories were told when you were drinking from that cup? And that's why I kind of love having tea time, is because we kind of get into everyone's cup, right? What is in your cup? And in your cup that you gave me was travel, tale telling, and art appreciation. That tells me a lot about you, because you're telling me that you like to travel. What you've shared with us, the tale telling is the tale telling of the arts, and having the appreciation for the arts and keeping the arts alive by sharing your novels and that, by bringing them back to life. I really love your tea. Like, your tea is a strong cup of tea here. But why
Oh,
did you give why did you give me those words, Roberta?
well, Miss Liz, when you asked me to explain what was my tea, um, I found it I found I had to dig deep to tell you something that would have meaning to me. Uh, remind me again, please. The T and the E and the E. What do they stand for again?
Well, for me, my Oma taught me three words when I was little, and they weren't a tea. They were a cup of tea that she gave me, but it was reset, recharge, and release. And as I was listening to T T T all the time, my Oma from the other side of the land there, the spirit world, she would just say it's tea time. And then the words. How do we tell stories with words that we don't usually generally speak of, right? How do we keep the T's alive? So that's where I came out with the TEA, and the TEE is German because my grandma was German.
Oh, ma,
So,
yes.
all we did was just change letters, right, and change words, and tell me your story. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, I have to dig deep for this." Like you just said, Roberta, I have to dig deep. It has to have meaning, right? It has to have meaning what we serve in our cups and what we serve in our lives, and what we serve in our services and what we write. If we don't have the passion and purpose behind it, why are we serving it? So that's what my Oma taught me as a little girl was it's tea time. It's time to really get the truth out there, right? So the it stands for teaching educational awareness, or transcend, embrace, and envision. So it's all about travel, time travel, right? And
Mm.
you're doing the same with your books. You're bringing the time travel through the storytelling of bringing all the books. And I love that your books are simple. The titles are simple, vanish, missing, loss. It's not like a big long title that you have to remember. They're simple words, and sometimes we make it more complicated than what it is if we just keep it simple, like artwork. Just keep it simple and understand the backstories and understand the stories that are being told through the arts. We do have a couple more questions coming in for you, Roberta, that I'd like to get to you. But I'm glad that you thought deep about your tea, because that's what I want people to do, is think about their teas. Think strong. My listeners as well. What is your tea? Why are you here? Why do you enjoy tea time? Is it because you can see an inner self when we're serving different types of tea? The next question that came in is from Olivia, and it is, what is one piece of art or one museum experience you could revisit again and again?
Hmm. Oh, well, it's always very hard to pick one. Um, what comes to mind right away, because I'm thinking about the books. Um, Part of the reason that I started writing about the Ringling Museum and about this portrait of the woman with the little ermine and the jewel, who is the concubine of Suleiman, who was probably the concubine of Suleiman. Um, my significant other and I were at an exhibit in Paris at the at the Luxembourg Palace, which is in the Luxembourg Garden, a very beautiful place in Paris, very historic and famous. And it was a museum. We were taken there by a friend, a Parisian friend who went to every exhibit. She knew everything that was going on all the time. And so she was great to know because she always had interesting things for us to do. So this was a show of Titian portraits. And I wasn't particularly interested necessarily in the Renaissance painter Titian, or in perhaps even in Renaissance painting. It appealed to me from a historical perspective, but I didn't know that much about it, and I kind of confused Titian and Veronese and Rubens and everybody else. So we go to the show, and it's a very beautiful show, very interesting portraits. Titian, the word for red, Titian red, comes from that painter's name. He liked redheads. And there were a lot of interesting and famous, important looking men, and some, beautiful. There their consorts. And then there was this one painting of a much younger woman wearing a conical hat and holding this little mink-like animal on her arm. And she also was a redhead. And I said to my friend, you know, I think that painting is from the Ringling Museum in Sarasota. And I'd always sort of made fun of the Ringling Museum in Sarasota because the Ringlings were circus people, and circus is not really serious. And when I saw that the painting, I went up to the card, the explanatory card. I saw that yes, indeed, it had been borrowed. This painting from Sarasota and the Ringling. And I was so proud of myself for recognizing this young woman's painting from the Ringling. That's an experience that I love, that I would love to repeat, where not only do I get to look at some beautiful object, but I get to feel that it made an impression on me. I remembered it. I know it. It was in my consciousness, even taken very out of context.
Well, the next question we have for you, Roberta, is from Citrus, and it's, when you were writing about an ancient artifact, how do you balance historical accuracy with the imagination needed to create a compelling mystery?
These are the greatest questions. Where? Thank you.
I have amazing listeners that tune into Teatime.
You really do. Well, when I first, my objective when I started this, I wanted to find something that was lost or from the museum. It couldn't be this painting. I decided that the painting was too obvious. So at first, I just had this stone that my good old boy, typical Florida man, Waylon, bumps into when he's out fishing. He stubs his toe on this stone object. And I had no idea what I was going to make that object. I wanted it to be mysterious, so it couldn't be too obviously anything. But yet, I needed to be historically accurate. If it came from a museum, there has to be some connection to factual art history. So I end up with all these books, doing a fair amount of research. I personally had been to Syria to see the treasury, which were some very beautiful buildings. There was a whole city actually made by the Nabatean Empire before the time of the classical Greeks. And I decided that I would make my stone objects possibly come from, maybe not from the city of the treasury, but I did research, and there are other places on the Arabian Peninsula and in the Middle East where there could such an object that helps to connect Western and Eastern culture might exist, kind of a Rosetta Stone, if you would. The Rosetta Stone is in France, in southwest France, not very far from, it's in the Louvre, but the person, Champollion, who found the Rosetta Stone in Egypt, no, I have that wrong. I don't think Champollion discovered the stone, but he helped to decipher the stone. The stone actually makes a link. It helped to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs because it has the same, it explains the same citation in 3 different languages. And working backwards from one of the ancient Greek languages and the Aramaic and the Greek, they were able to understand some of the first kings' names of the Egyptian kings. So anyway, I thought that was really fascinating. I had been to Figeac and seen the Champollion Museum, which actually has a wonderful art object in the courtyard. The courtyard is made of basalt, of black stone, and you walk on a kind of recreation of the Rosetta Stone and its carvings. There's some great museums in France that are just in little towns far away from Paris. Anyway, I did have to work hard to weave together a bunch of strains and some factual, some possible. I'm still hoping somebody's going to find something exactly like I created in my mind, and I'll be totally justified in in having created this fictional object that's based on fact.
Well, the next question comes in from Rochelle, and it's how did these characters develop throughout the art mystery series, and have they ever surprised you while writing?
Well, uh, if I okay, my characters, Sam and Barbara, um, are loosely based on myself and a man that I met who has since died, with whom I had a tremendous romantic and in every other way connection. So I think that if I had it, I spent a lot of time on the actual mysteries and the art objects. Sam and Barbara remain somewhat static, I would say, in the over the three novels. It was my objective to make their relationship, as my relationship with this person rather was, kind of idealized. They have a really friendly, helpful, supportive, humorous, romantic kind of repartee going on. Uh, but if I, I guess if or when I write another in the series, I would like to develop their characters further. Perhaps particularly because in reality Sam did become ill and die. Um, that would certainly take one of the books in a different direction than their present cheerful, fun uh, 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 guys. It would be different.
Well, we have a kind of like a question here. The combination of romance, suspense, art, and international intrigues seems like such a difficult balance to create. And then the next question that comes in from Antonia is how do you decide which elements should take center stage in particular stories?
Well, to be honest, with both of these questions, I would say that I'm not sure that I'm always in as terrific control of all these elements as perhaps I might have been. I kind of ran with things, to tell you the truth. I decided that if I was going to do this, that is, write these books, um, I wouldn't second guess myself over and over again. I would kind of, I feel I gave this advice to someone about painting as well. I was painting out of doors up in some mountain place in France with some young people, and one young man is just despairing because his watercolor isn't working out, and I said, well, you know what? Start another one.
Start
And
over.
right, and I think that it was hard to balance all those different elements. I think, let me see, probably in each of the books, I did, I would say, in missing, I concentrated very much on Sam and Barbara's relationship in their little town where they moved to a medieval townhouse. And also there's a competing story, which is the story of Sonia Delaunay, the artist who had a fascinating life, starting in the 19 teens. She was born in Russia, then she was in Paris in the 19 teens in Montmartre, painting, and with her husband, who was actually more famous than she. Then during the war, they were in hiding. He died, and she goes on in the 1970s and 80s. She lived until 94 to have a fantastic career when she when President Pompidou, a former French president, came to the United States for a state visit. He brought a Delaunay canvas to be given to the National Gallery of Art. She was very famous. So her story is a big feature of that book. And then in it was a balance. It was a balance also in Vanished, where it's fascinating about the art object. Sam and Barbara, perhaps, they play more of a facilitating role, helping Abdoulaye Diop, this African migrant, to get residency, legal residency in France, through a trip to Le Mont Saint Michel. I would say that I was juggling a whole lot of balls in these books. That is very true. How well I did it? Well, they won some awards, but really you would have to read them to see whether it particularly appeals to you. But that's my personality. I am juggling a lot of balls. I think what you write is probably expressive of your personality.
Well, I think that's a storyteller as well, because you're not just in one genre, you're in all different ones, so it keeps the reader interested.
Well, I would think so. Perhaps each of these stories could have been expanded out into on all of the fronts. That is very true. In the art object, the personal development of Sam and Barbara, the intrigue, but in a shorthand way, I think I touched upon everything.
Well, we have a question here from Banter Show, and it is, what your favorite place in France?
Oh, this is another one of these where I have to pick just one.
Top three.
Okay, top three. Well, all right, I'm just going to go with what comes right to the top of my head, and not name the usual. There is a place in the southwest of France called Le Gouffre de Padirac, and it is a huge chasm in the ground. It's a naturally occurring gouffre, that is a chasm, and through it is flowing an underground river. And you take this series of ancient elevators, all mossy covered, down, down, down into the bowels of the earth. And then you get on this boat and take a short boat ride through this dark, silent cavern. And you can get your picture taken at the end and then pay for the picture if you want to memorialize your trip. So Le Gouffre de Padirac is a kind of otherworldly experience. I had an experience I loved, and it will soon be available again. I had never been in Paris to the Pompidou Center, the very modern art center, which is now closed for renovation. It's the building that had all the exterior of its plumbing and electricity and conduits on the outside of the building, not on the inside. It was built in the 60s, so it's now time for it to be renovated. But just before it closed, my present partner and I had lunch in their very beautiful restaurant up on the top of it, and it was a rainy day. So as you look out over Paris, it was very, very beautiful. The meal was very, very delicious, and the architecture of that restaurant, and particularly the ladies' room, was absolutely astoundingly pop art, and I hope they keep some of that spirit when they do the renovation. So there are two very different places. France, I know France very, very well, and for me, in a small country, France is about as big as Texas. It is so varied, from the mountains to the sea. All right, the beach at Biarritz, France. Biarritz is on the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic coast of France, near Spain, and it was at the time kind of pre-Victorian times, became one of the first places in France where people went to bathe in the ocean in their long bathing costumes. The Empress Eugenie made it popular as a seaside resort. There is a lighthouse there. It's a beautiful beach. There's a beach there, a part of the beach called La Chambre d'Amour, and the reason it's called La Chambre d'Amour is because there's a legend that two lovers were spooning. Gee, there's an old word.
I haven't heard that in ages.
I'm harking back to my grandpa, like Oma. Anyway, um, they were having a romantic interlude on the beach, away from everyone, when the tide from the Bay of Biscay came in, and the Bay of Biscay has some very impressive tides. It came in and swept them out to sea. So La Chambre d'Amour and the La Chambre d'Amour is watched over by a lighthouse designed by Gustave Eiffel, that's the Eiffel Tower guy, because it turns out that Eiffel did many constructions, not just the Eiffel Tower. He was very well known. He did the skeleton for the Statue of Liberty, in fact. So anything that was done in metal in those years in the 1890s, Eiffel probably had a hand in. And I actually, although I don't recommend anybody repeat this experience, I was swimming in Biarritz off of La Grande Plage, the big beach, not in La Chambre d'Amour. And it was a beautiful day. The sun was beating down on the sapphire blue water. The lifeguards, there were no red or yellow flags. Swimming was supposed to be okay. I glanced up at the sun striking Eiffel's lighthouse in the distance, and I was kind of mesmerized by the beauty of it all. I'm a good swimmer. When I noticed that I was rather far away from shore, and I wasn't exactly sure how to get back. But I didn't panic. And slowly and surely, I worked my way back to the beach, and then I'd get carried out a ways again. I'd work my way back. Anyway, after I'm not sure how much time had passed, I arrived safe and sound. I washed up on the beach, but my friends had all gone home. It was late in the afternoon. And they had taken my towel. In those days in Biarritz, you did not walk around town in your bathing suit. You had to be dressed. So again, it's one of those mysterious experiences people sometimes have. Was I really in danger? What happened there?
Yeah.
But Biarritz is a beautiful seaside resort to visit in France. And right now, surfing is very popular there. It's become kind of a surf, particularly a beach called Anglais, which is just around the corner from La Chambre d'Amour and La Grande Plage.
I really love that you're bringing so much education to the listeners because they can go and experience, right? They can listen to this tea time and they can say, "Oh, I never knew about this. I didn't know about that." You know, it gets them into the books. It gets them into researching, and I love that. I always wanted to be a kindergarten teacher when I was little, and I guess I'm just teaching through tea time, right? And getting the guests to come here and share the history and bring it back to life, because that's exactly what we're doing this afternoon, is sharing the history of art and the storytelling of Paris and France. And wow, we have a question here from Anita, and it is: if someone is discovering your work for the first time, which book would you recommend they begin with?
Well, if they're interested in a mystery kind of a thing, if that's their cozy mystery kind of person, then I would say to begin with Missing, the book about the artist Sonia Delaunay and her missing masterpiece in the medieval village, because that one kind of sets the scene. Barbara and Sam have just moved to this village, and so it's kind of a new beginning. If a person is more interested in kind of a memoir, sort of an eat, pray, love kind of a story about personal development, uh, then French lessons is certainly is the it was the basis for my starting to write these books, and it's when Sam and Barbara uh, meet cute, so to speak. That's but each book stands on its own completely.
So, Roberta, we've talked a little bit about loss today. So, if anybody wanted to get lost, where could they get this book and all the other books?
Well, the books are available on all the big websites, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, you name it. They are available. Although titles like Lost, Missing, and Vanished are kind of generic, so you have to probably carefully look for Roberta Samuels, and I'm not exactly a household name, so uh, at robertasamuels.com, there are links to how to buy all the books.
So, Roberta, what would your final message be for the listener today?
Well, I think my final message is really for you, Miss Liz. You're pretty special.
Well, thank you.
I don't think I've talked so much and so pleasantly with someone I just met for a long time. So I don't know what kind of spell you weave, but
It's
thank
all my Oma. My Oma has all of the magic spells. I just serve tea. She just has tea time, and I'm just like, okay, Grandma, it's tea time. Let's do this. Let's get the stories out there. I really appreciated this conversation with you, Roberta, because you brought so much history and art to the table, and flow and strength and beauty of artwork that people will just look past, right? We want you to really look within ourselves and look within the books and read the stories and give feedback. And I always love to hear what the audience has to say about my guests and that as well. And I'm glad that some of you guys are happy that Miss Liz is back, because we are going to be back at 7 p.m. with another show. And then we'll be back on Thursday for the final 2 of August. And September's release will be released soon. We're working on that as well. So there's so much good stuff happening on Tea Time. Thank you, Kathy, for this. Thank you for sharing so many wonderful stories today. Thank you, Roberta, for bringing those stories to the table. It really is amazing. I'm just going to do a recap of what today's Tea Time is, and we'll be back at 7, and we'll do this all over again with you guys. What a wonderful and intriguing journey we have shared today. Roberta, thank you for bringing your creativity, curiosity, humor, and love of discovery to the Tea Time table. Today's conversation reminded us that mystery can be found almost anywhere. Inside an ancient artifact, behind a missing painting, with a stolen statue, inside an old French village, or even with the unexpected adventures of renovating a house in France. Through lost, missing, vanished, and French lessons, you showed us that places and objects are never simply background scenery. They carry stories, they carry history, they connect people across countries, generations, and cultures. We explored the inspiration behind your books, the fascinating relationship between the facts and the fiction, and the way travel, art, history, and human curiosity can come together to create a compelling mystery. One of today's greatest takeaway is this: curiosity turns the ordinary into an adventure because it teaches us to look twice at the things everyone else walks past. Roberta, your books remind us that storytelling is often an art, an act of discovery. A writer begins with a question. The characters follow the clues. The readers join the journey. Somewhere along the way, everyone discovers something they were not expecting. As we close today's tea time, I'd like to leave everyone with this thought. What story might be hiding inside an object, place, or memory you have passed 100 times without truly noticing? Sometimes the next great adventure is not waiting on the other side of the world. Sometimes it's sitting quietly in front of us, waiting for curiosity to notice it. Roberta, thank you for taking us across oceans, through history, into the art world, and down the winding roads of France through your storytelling. Until next time, continue following the clues, continue exploring the unexpected, and continue serving real life tea, truth, experience, and awareness, one mystery adventure at a time. And today's takeaway from Miss Liz is every object has a history, Every place carries a memory, and every unanswered question holds the possibility of a story. Curiosity is often the key that unlocks the adventure hiding just beneath the surface. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m.